Today's lesson is going to use the get method where we can find out a little bit about you and your personality. Okay, it's going to require two files. The first one's called personality.html, and that's what's going to contain the web form where we're going to ask the user some information. We'll start with the standard template that we add some things to, like a form. Now that form, we have to give it a name. We're going to just call it person. We feel like calling it that. The action is going to be personality.php. So that means that when I hit the submit button, it's going to send all the information in this form to a file called personality.php. You don't see a folder name, so that means the personality.php is going to be in the same folder as the current file. We're going to actually put it in a folder called forms. The method is going to be get. Now, there are two different types of methods that we'll often use, get or post. Get is going to send the variables as part of the URL when it sends it. We'll see that a little later. Now the first thing we're going to do is input a text box. So we're going to call it input type equals text, and the name is just going to be fname. And you can see that just sitting there on a web page, just a blank box. Well, that's not going to tell us much, so let's add to that the word name, colon, and we'll put a BR at the end of that line so that we can go down and add some more stuff. And that's what it's going to look like. Now the second thing we're going to do is add a radio button. Okay, radio buttons, the way they work is once you select one, you deselect all the others. You can only have one open and one on at a time, much like back in times when we had radios in cars that you pushed a button and you got one radio station. When you selected a different radio station, you lost all the other ones. Now in this case, they have to all have the same name. So to group them together, name equals major. And I've got two possibilities, computer information systems and computer science, but that's not what I'll send. I'll send the value of CIS or the value of CS in each case. See what that looks like. Now I can go back and add more to that. After I've selected one, I can unselect that. But let's go back and add something like other. That gives you a third option. For that matter, I can even add business if I wanted to. Now, obviously, business is something that's not computer science or computer information systems, so I can just leave it as three choices. That's what I feel like doing. Now, the next thing we're going to learn about is checkboxes. So I have an input type equals checkbox. Name, in this case, is bird feeder. And you can see it just shows a little checkbox. There's no word next to it, so I'm going to add the word bird feeder and a line break. And while I'm at it, I'm going to ask another checkbox, name equals gun. And so it's going to say, do you own a bird feeder or do you own a gun? These are important questions we need to know to understand more about your personality. The next thing we need to know is what type of toppings do you like on your pizza? So we're going to add an input box there, type equals checkbox. Name equals cheese with the word cheese next to it. So that'll be the first option. Now if I want to, I could add the word checked next to that. And what that will do is allow cheese to be automatically checked. So it's sort of an assumption that you probably will like cheese on your pizza. And then I'll add a bunch of others, sausage, pepperoni, mushrooms. Notice I called mushrooms fungi because that's just their official name. Onions, pineapple. I don't know why you would want pineapple on your pizza, but that again could reflect something about your personality. And then the last thing we add is a submit button. Value equals learn something about yourself. So that will give us a little button to submit. And so once we filled in our name and chosen our major and chosen whether or not we have a bird feeder, a gun, check mark that, check mark the pizza. If we don't want cheese on our pizza, we can uncheck that. We can click a button, we can learn something about ourselves. Now, all that information is going to go to a file called personality.php. And that begins just as a simple HTML file, but we're going to make some changes to it. We're going to put in any of the PHP code has to be within the less than question mark PHP to the question mark greater than symbol. Anything inside of there is going to be the PHP, and it's written in a different language, not JavaScript, not HTML, but PHP. One thing I can do is the echo command. That's similar to the document.write in JavaScript, and it just prints out to the screen whatever you have. Now, I mentioned we are setting this by the get method. So the way to look at the fname is to put an echo and then $ underscore capital GET, and then in brackets we have single quotes and the name of the field. While I'm at it, I can echo the major, bird feeder, and gun as well, and put the line breaks just so we can take a look at that. But I want to remind you that FNAME is a word. Major is going to be either CIS, CS, or other. Bird feeder and gun, what are they? Well, those were checkboxes. Now, before I can do anything, I got to FTP these up to the server, because if I don't FTP them up to the server, they won't work. Remember, personality.php, because it's a PHP file, it works only on the server. So I'll open up my form, and I'll put some information in. I'll just say my name is Joe, and I'm a computer information systems major, and I'll pretend I own a gun and I like cheese in my pizza. You'll notice what happens when you hit submit. All that stuff, because it's the get method, goes on the URL. Now, I didn't say I had a bird feeder, so it doesn't even appear there. And notice gun has a value of on. So does cheese have a value of on. Major in this case was CIS, and FNAME was Joe. So in the case of echoing the bird feeder, there's nothing to show. If I did nothing at all, you will notice that FNAME still gets sent. By not choosing a major, nothing actually gets sent. By not choosing any of the checkboxes, nothing gets sent. But FNAME still gets sent either way. Now, back to my PHP file. Let's just make some changes here. I'm just going to get rid of all that extra stuff, but I'm going to say this. I'm going to leave my FNAME. Then I'm going to say, well, if get major, because there doesn't necessarily have to be a get major. Remember, if I didn't choose one. So if there is one, then I'm going to create a new variable called major and have it be equal to get major. Otherwise, I'm going to have it equal to NA. So I've created a variable called FNAME that will be the value of the FNAME field, which could be null or blank. And then if there is a get major, it will assign it to value to major. But either way, there'll be a value for $. And we'll do the same thing for $bird feeder, $gun, $cheese, sausage, pepperoni, mushrooms. Notice this time I've changed mushrooms back to mushrooms will be the variable if there is a get fungi. Onions, pineapple. So now all of them will have a value that could be NA or it could be whatever we send. Okay, so now I'll echo the FNAME, whatever it is, and for that matter I'm going to echo all the other variables. Let's just see what they look like. And after choosing a few of them, cheese, pepperoni, and onions, which by the way is an awesome pizza, and I chose that I have a bird feeder and I'm a computer science major this time, you'll see that some of the variables show up as NA, or in the case of the checkboxes, they show up as on, because that's the variable that's sent, the value that's sent of the variable. So let me change this around a little bit, and let me just instead say hello and FNAME. So I echo the word hello, comma, in quotes, and then a period to concatenate strings, and then the FNAME variable, and then the BR just so I have a line break. And if the major is equal to CS, now when I say equals, I mean double equals because it's a comparison equals. So if major happens to equal CS, and then I could put the OR symbol, the two pipelines, major double equals CIS. Now because I have two conditionals, I have to wrap them in their own conditional. So I actually have parentheses around the whole parentheses, open and close curly braces for this if statement. So if you happen to be a CS or CIS major, it's going to echo, wow, you must be some kind of genius like Albert Einstein or Alfred Newman. Else, and then in this case I'm saying, okay, so if you're a CS or CIS major, you're going to print that line. If you're not, that means you're probably either an NA, because that's what you never chose a major, or you're an other. In that case, I'm just going to echo, so college is just one big party for you, eh? Now you'll notice I've made a change in here where instead of having bird feeder being equal to NA, I've now chosen to change all of my checkboxes to be off. So now either it's going to have a value of the get variable, which would be on, or it's going to be off instead of NA. I just feel like making that change because it's logical. Checkboxes now are going to be either on or off. So if the bird feeder double equals on, that means if comparison equals to on, and for that matter, and the gun comparison equals off. So I'm saying, well, all right, so if the bird feeder is on and the gun is off, now I got to wrap that whole thing inside of parentheses because it needs parentheses around the whole conditional. So if both bird feeder's on and gun is off, then I've got my curly braces. What's going to happen? It's just going to echo, you must be a Democrat, because we all know the Democrats care about the little birdies. Though they've survived in the wild for 2 million years, we now know that they can't survive without a Democrat out there filling the bird feeder with food so that the bird can survive, except during winter when the Democrat goes to Florida. And then it starves. On the other hand, the bird feeder, if it's off, double equals to off, and the gun is equal to on, well, what do we know? Obviously, it must be a Republican, because we all know Republicans only care about guns. They don't care about people, and they certainly don't care about birds and the environment. Now, let's assume that the bird feeder double equals off, and the gun double equals off. So they're compared to off. What does that mean? Well, obviously, they have no interest in politics if they don't have a bird feeder or a gun. That's pretty obvious. So then the next question remains, well, what if they have both a bird feeder and a gun? So both those comparison equals to on. Obviously, they must be a sick, twisted redneck who likes to shoot little birdies and is too lazy to leave their own back porch. People, have a sense of humor. Now, if sausage double equals on, what does that tell us? Well, you must have a spicy personality. If pepperoni is equal to on, you must have a cancer death wish. If onions are equal to on, you don't care about what other people think about you. Let's be honest. So, we can choose that Joe here is another major, and he perhaps owns both a bird feeder and a gun, and he likes cheese, pepperoni, and onions, which of course we do know is an awesome pizza. And what do we find out? Hello, Joe. So college is just one big party for you, eh? You must be a sick, twisted redneck who likes to shoot little birdies and is too lazy to leave your own back porch. You have a cancer death wish, and you don't care about what others think of you.